The problem with our people, so-called black people, number one, we believe that our race is actually a color, which is not. And that causes all type of confusion that our people have a hard time getting over. As long as you call yourself so-called black or whatever you want to call yourself, you're never going to be able to embrace a culture, because culture is based off of tribal lineage and understanding. That's why the Caucasian Jew rules over the other Caucasians, because the Caucasian Jew, they have a very strong culture. You look at the strongest races in the world, they're all the races with the strongest cultures. The Caucasian Jew, the Asians, the East Indians, the Arabs, they have the strongest cultures because they don't view themselves as a so-called skin color. They're bonded together by an actual lineage. And that's what our people have to come to embrace.
Who is Unc's crack pipe? Who is Unc's crack pipe? Who is Unc's crack pipe? Who? Who?
He is the one.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
At the end of the day, our people are supposed to establish our own forms of treatment with one another and not be as concerned about the other races as we always seem to be. That's why I say these so-called pro-blacks, they're actually pro-white. They're so worried about how the white man thinks of them.
That's a good point.
That's interesting. That's a fact. Right.
It's more so of black people not knowing who they are.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to rewind this back because Draymond Green is the only person in this entire cipher that actually spoke like a man. And look at the looks on the faces of these three dudes right here. These are three Luciferian globalist Negroes trying to frame themselves as being pro-black, and they're all confused, all three of them. And they were confounded by Draymond's statement. Let me rewind it back.
The reason we... That's a good point.
That's interesting. That's a fact. Right.
It's more so of black people not knowing who they are. The reason we struggle as black people is because we don't know who we are.
Say that.
And so, I mean, if you want to be quite frank about it, white people know who we are.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So Draymond probably knows a little something. I'm not going to put any thoughts on him in regards to what he has an understanding of. But just by his statement right there, he was letting it be known that the main problem that our people have is within us. We don't acknowledge who we are, because it's only when you know who you are, then you know what you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. We keep looking for identity from the Caucasian. We keep looking for them to give us a hug. That's why I state these pro-blacks, they just want a hug from the white man. That's all they want. They keep trying to fool people, but you can't fool me. So does Draymond Green know that he's of the people of the book? Who knows? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But based on his statement, he seems to know that to some degree.
That's why they keep fucking kicking us.
Why don't we get out with each other when we're in the same lane?
100%.
It makes more sense.
It makes much more sense, and you actually can become in control of our thing because we really created it.
The reason...
That's the point. The point is for you to be in control of what you create. That's why I state that so many of you brothers, you work on these jobs and you're miserable every day. The reason why you're miserable every day is because you're better than the job that you're at. The so-called black man is better than working in corporate America. You should be trying to pursue your own endeavor, whatever it is, whatever gift you have. That's your purpose for being here on the earth. Not to work for another man. Whatever gift you happen to have, whether it's writing, singing, dancing, building, designing, you should take that gift and maximize it so that you can see the fruits of your labor. A lot of you brothers are working 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and you have to punch out, punch in. And what that does is that marginalizes your understanding of what you're capable of, what you can be, what your potential is. And that starts to trickle over into other aspects of your life. You start to tolerate being marginalized by people in your personal life because you get marginalized in your professional life because you're marginalizing yourself, man. But let me rewind back Draymond Green's statement one more time.
That's a good point.
That's interesting.
That's a fact.
Right.
It's more so of black people not knowing who they are. The reason we struggle as black people is because we don't know who we are.
Say that.
And so, I mean, if you want to be quite frank about it, white people know who we are. That's why they keep fucking kicking us.
Why don't we get out?
Good for you, sir. I have to admit that my respect for you went up about tenfold. Good job.
The reason other cultures are so strong, like a Jew is going to look out for a Jew. A Chinese man is gonna look out for a Chinese man.
Now, of course, Jon Stewart is going to object to what Draymond Green is saying because he understands that his people are at the top of the pyramid. So, of course, there's division amongst them, but they're always going to choose one another over everyone else. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem comes in based on the notion, the perception that the media is controlled by the super liberal Caucasian Jew, and they try to foment all type of separation amongst the races that are underneath them, because the fact of the matter is that, yes, these so-called Jews, they do control the entertainment industry, the media, as well as the banking system. So of course they're going to work together. That makes sense that they work together. The problem with our people, so-called black people, number one, we believe that our race is actually a color, which is not, and that causes all type of confusion that our people have a hard time getting over. As long as you call yourself so-called black or whatever you want to call yourself, you're never going to be able to embrace a culture, because culture is based off of tribal lineage and understanding. That's why the Caucasian Jew rules over the other Caucasians, because the Caucasian Jew, they have a very strong culture. You look at the strongest races in the world, they're all the races with the strongest cultures. The Caucasian Jew, the Asians, the East Indians, the Arabs, they have the strongest cultures because they don't view themselves as a so-called skin color. They're bonded together by an actual lineage. And that's what our people have to come to embrace.
No matter what.
Jews look out for Jews, period.
If you don't do it,
Draymond doubled down on it. He said, Jews look out for Jews, period. Now here come Michael Bennett, the super liberal pansy and the pawn of the Black Lesbians Matter movement. As you can see on his t-shirt, he has the image of Angela Davis, who was a Marxist herself. I've been telling you brothers for the longest time, these guys are Marxists, man.
But you know why, though? Because they realize that they've been through something they never want it to happen again. Right. Humankind is tribal in nature. We are born to join and be with groups where we find identity. It's why team fanship is so strong. You know, if we didn't have religion, we find other ways to go to war with each other.
Now, Jon Stewart is here acting as the proverbial overseer over this this congregation. And this comes from events that transpired in the aftermath of many of the slave revolts of the early 1800s, particularly the Nat Turner slave revolt. Now, unbeknownst to Maverick Carter and LeBron James and many of the other super liberal, quote-unquote, woke Negroes that are here at this meeting, Jon Stewart is standing in as a representation of the overseer from slavery times. And that convention was instituted mostly in the aftermath of many of the slave revolts in the early 1800s, particularly the infamous Nat Turner slave revolt, where thereafter, any time that so-called blacks met up in a group, there had to be a Caucasian man there to watch over them to make sure that they were not planning anything. That's why I state that without a doubt in my mind. This show is the brainchild of LeBron James's Marxist handlers. That's why they placed the super liberal Caucasian Jewish man there to act as the MC. Despite them understanding this, I mean, maybe only Draymond understands this. Jon Stewart is there to act as the controller. He's there to make sure that the conversation stays in bounds. You can speak that woke shit, but you cannot speak anything of realism. That's why you see that the main reason why Jon Stewart interjected himself into the conversation was because he saw that Draymond Green was taking the conversation into a realistic place. Draymond started to talk about reality. He was no longer talking about idealism, like Candace Parker or Snoop Dogg or LeBron James. So Draymond Green is someone to watch. We'll see what happens with him.
Because we are tribal in nature and we fight over resources. And when you start to believe that your resources are finite, you begin to treat others as foes and rivals and enemies. Right. What would unite us as people? If fucking aliens came. And then we'd all be like, humans are in trouble. We gotta jump on this shit.
So in other words, what Jon Stewart pretty much just laid out is the understanding that the multitude of races on the planet Earth are not going to come together until the return that's prophesied in the scriptures, because that's pretty much what Jon Stewart just laid out.
I was raised off, Snoop and Pac and Jay and Biggie, and now I get an opportunity to...
In other words, your father figures were all Luciferian degenerates. That's what you're saying, LeBron James.
To be the inspiration around what all these kids are looking up to, and for me to just sit back and not say shit when a lot of my peers didn't say shit, it didn't feel right.
No, brother, it's not that it didn't feel right. It was that Nike coaxed you to say some things because that was part of your brand. The Jordan brand was that Michael Jordan was welcomed in everyone's household. The LeBron James brand in the woke era is that we're going to be counterculture. We're going to push the envelope. We're going to push certain buttons. And don't worry about it, LeBron. We have your back. That was the marketing plan. And that's all this is a marketing plan.
Athletes don't have a responsibility to speak up for nothing. You have a responsibility to speak up for what you believe in.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Draymond Green. Let me rewind this back for a lot of the woke Negroes who might not understand that.